Imagine you've got millions of database entries across thousands of BigQuery datasets hosted on hundreds of Google Cloud projects, and you have to search through all that data to make sure sensitive data is properly protected. That sounds like a huge deal, and to be honest, it's a lot just thinking about it. Luckily, though, Automatic DLP makes it a breeze. You can scan across your org with just a few clicks. Automatic DLP offers a slew of new features to configure scans that meet your business needs so that you can have even more visibility into at-risk data in your organization. In our last video, What is Automatic DLP?, we outlined what Automatic DLP is. Now, we'll learn how to configure it and make it work for your business. To be able to scan your organization data and create a data profile, you need to create a scan configuration. A scan configuration is where you set the resource that you want to scan, organization, folder, or project, which inspection template to use, and what to do with the results. But before we can dive into how to create a scan configuration, let's go over some resource hierarchy. Google Cloud resources are organized hierarchically. Starting from the bottom of the hierarchy, projects are the first level. Resources like BigQuery datasets are associated with individual projects. Folders are an additional grouping mechanism on top of projects. Folders can be used to model different legal entities, departments, and teams within a company. Folders and projects are all mapped under the organization resource. The organization resource is the root node of the Google Cloud resource hierarchy, and all resources that belong to an organization are grouped under the organization node. This provides central visibility and control over every resource that belongs to an organization. Automatic DLP is designed to operate across this hierarchy, enabling you to configure it across projects, folders, or your organization. This gives you flexibility while minimizing overhead. Let's talk a bit about scanning organizations and folders. A maximum of one scan configuration can be created for each organization or folder. Once a scan configuration is active, it will cover all the datasets and tables in all the projects below it in the hierarchy. If two or more active scan configurations have the same project in their scope, the following rules apply. The one that is closest to the project in the hierarchy will be able to generate data profiles for that project. So if you want to cover your entire organization, you can just create one configuration for your org. If you need to have different configurations for a certain department or business unit, you have that flexibility too. Now, let's talk about project-level configurations. Automatic DLP treats project-level scan configurations independently of organization and folder-level configurations. This way, you can enable project or data owners to run their own discovery scans without impacting what the organization level needs. So, a scan configuration that you create at the project level can't override one that you create for a parent folder or organization. Let's take a look at an example where there are 3 scan configurations. Here, scan configuration 1 applies to the entire organization. Scan configuration 2 applies to the Team B folder, and scan configuration 3 applies to the production project. In this example, Cloud DLP effectively generates 2 sets of profiles for the production project, one set for scan configuration 2 and one set for scan configuration 3. However, even though there are 2 sets of profiles for the same project, you don't see them all together in your dashboard. You only see the profiles that were generated under the purview and region that you're currently viewing. And speaking of things under your purview, let's talk about roles and permissions. To turn a scan configuration on at the org and folder level, you need the DLP administrator role, the project creator role, and either the organization administrator or the security admin role on the organization IAM policy. Viewing data profiles on an organization or folder will require the DLP data profiles reader role and the DLP reader role. That being said, it is possible for a user to create the configuration, another user with higher permissions to grant profiling access, and another user to monitor the generated profiles. Similarly, to enable Automatic DLP on at the project level, you need the right project level permissions. Okay, now that resource hierarchy and permissions are covered, let's get into the good stuff. As I mentioned before, a scan configuration is where you set the resource that you want to scan, which inspection template to use, and what to do with the results. Configurations can only be created once for an org and once for any folder, but you always have the flexibility to change it. First, make sure that you're in the correct organization or project. For this demonstration, I'm going to create a configuration at the organization level. To do that, I've got the security admin role assigned on the organization IAM policy so that I can configure Automatic DLP for the entire org. We'll also touch on the project level scan a bit later. In Manage Schedules, you can set a scanning schedule for a subset of your data with details on filters, frequency, and conditions. Filters specify the subset of your data, and you can identify specific projects, datasets, or table IDs and regular expressions that you want to call out, which means you can leave out or only scan any portion of the data you want, like tables that end in _temp. Frequency covers whether selected tables should be profiled, how often they should be profiled, and events that will trigger scanning. For example, you can specify how often you want the data reprofiled when the schema changes, like when columns are removed or when a table has data changes, such as when new data rows are added. Finally, conditions are set up so that they must be met before a table is profiled. There are minimum conditions, which are about rows and duration, and time condition, for only profiling tables after a specific date and time. So if you have tables that are created but not filled until 48 hours later, and you don't want them profiled while they're empty, you can set a row condition, though the table must have at least 100 rows before being profiled or must be 48 hours old. Managing schedules is considered an optional step because if you don't set a new schedule, the default schedule will take over. The default frequency is to pick up new tables daily and only reprofile monthly if the schema changes. Next, you'll need to select an inspection template to specify the types of sensitive data to scan for. For today, we'll create a new one. And we'll scan for dates of birth, emails, and person names. You can also add additional inspection rule sets if you want to exclude unwanted findings or include additional findings. Then we'll select a likelihood level if possible and press continue to finish our inspection template. Keep in mind that if you change an inspection template that your scan configuration uses, the changes are applied only to future scans and any existing data profiles are not overwritten. So, if you edit your template to add an info type, that change only affects tables that have yet to be scanned. Now you get to decide how to manage the outcome of your scan, aka those data profiles. You have the option to publish to Chronicle, save copies to BigQuery, or publish events to PubSub, but we'll talk more about this in an upcoming video. Up next is the Service Agent Container, which is a project that Cloud DLP uses to track billing charges related to organization and folder level profiling. A service agent is a Google managed service account that Automatic DLP uses to profile data on your behalf. When you create a scan configuration for your organization or for a folder, Cloud DLP requires you to provide a service agent to authenticate. Your service agent must have all the required permissions to access and profile your data. Cloud DLP can automatically create a service agent for you. And if you're configuring project level profiling, Cloud DLP automatically uses your project's own service agent. For this demonstration, we'll create a new project. Last but not least, you need to set a location to store the configuration. This is just the region for where the configuration will live. Remember that regardless of where you store your configuration, when scanning your actual data, Automatic DLP will do so in the same geographic region that your data lives in. This way, your data does not leave its region and data residency is supported.
We're going to go with multiple regions in the United States for our resource location. Then we'll review this quickly and create. Now you have your scan configuration saved in your dashboard and it will run on its own.
Before we finish, let's talk about the project level configuration I mentioned before. As we discussed, this type of scan configuration can always profile the target project and does not compete with other configurations at the level of the parent folder or organization. The main difference is that there's no need to select a service agent container. Everything else is the same as with the organization and folders. Now you've seen firsthand how simple it is to create and deeply customize a scan configuration for your organization, folder, or project. So let's recap. Scan configurations is where you set the resource that you want to scan, which inspection template to use, and what to do with the results. Google Cloud resources are organized hierarchically, and Automatic DLP scan configurations follow this hierarchy when scanning. The correct permissions are needed when turning scan configurations on. Scan configurations now include new options for your org like how often to scan, what to scan or not scan, where to scan, and more. Then you just turn it on once and let it run, while we take care of the rest. Join us next time when we explore how to manage your scan outcomes in detail. Thanks for watching.